Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Okay, we'll start in about 6 minutes. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Jai Prabhupada. All ready? Are you ready? 1 minute more. Yeah. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna. Welcome everyone to our ongoing journey of self-realization, Krishna consciousness, following in the footsteps of His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, founder Acharya of the ISKCON, International Society for Krishna Consciousness. Now I've named this session in our study of the Bhagavad Gita, second chapter, verse 21 today, challenge the status quo. So we'll start, as we usually do, with listening to Srila Prabhupada chant the Mangala Charana prayers. And you can start by to challenge the status quo, your own belief barriers or your own mind saying, oh, I've heard this before, it's boring, can't go any further. But transcendental sound is emanating from the lotus lips of the pure devotee. In this case, our founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada, is unlimited. There's no end, no top, no bottom, no sides. It's endlessly relishable. Please give yourself, dive into the sound vibration fully.
Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.
Jai Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Introduction to Gita-Upanishad.
Hare Krishna. Yes, we can always be challenging. It's valuable, helpful, dynamic to always challenge the status quo. What is that status quo? Our present conditioned outlook, thoughts, expectations, attachments in this material world. At least I'm speaking for myself. To always step beyond where I am now. Self-realization is dynamic, always expanding. The nature of spirit is to grow. So we'll chant Jai Radha Madhava briefly. Oh, actually, last time we started reading progressively the translations of what we've just heard Prabhupada say. So it's valuable also to know what we're chanting or what we're listening to. This is the second stanza. When will Srila Rupa Goswami Prabhupada, who is established within this material world, the mission to fulfill the desire of Lord Chaitanya, give me shelter under his lotus feet? That's the second stanza. Sri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam. So good to have awareness of what we are reading, studying, hearing. Turn the phone off. Also helpful. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Everyone. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Jasodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana. Jasodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana. Jasodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana. Jamuna Tira Anachari. Jamuna Tira Anachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Jasodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana. Jasodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana. Jamuna Tira Anachari. Jamuna Tira Anachari. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jai Om Vishnu Pada Paramahamsa Parivratikacharya Asatarya Sada Shri Sriman's Divine Grace Shri A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnu Pada Paramahamsa Parivratikacharya Asatarya Sada Shri Sriman's Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai. Srila Gaura Kishodas Babaji Maharaj Ki Jai. Shri Bhaktivinoda Thakur ki jai, Shri Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj ki jai, Shri Guru Parampara ki jai, Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai, Namacharya Shri Haridas Thakur ki jai, ISKCON BBT founder Acharya Divine Grace Shri Prabhupada ki jai, Prem Skaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktivinoda ki jai, Shri Radha Krishna Gopi Gopinath Shama Kunda Radha Kundi Giri Govardhan ki jai, Shri Vrindavan Mathura Dham ki jai, Shri Navadvip Mayapur Dham ki jai, Shri Jagannath Puri Dham ki jai, Ganga Jamuna Mai ki jai, Tulasi Devi Maharani ki jai, Bhakti Devi ki jai, Samaveda Bhakta Vrinda ki jai, Shri Harinam Sankirtan Yagya ki jai, Transcendental Book Distribution ki jai, Transcendental Prasadam Distribution ki jai, Shri Shri Gaurnitai ki jai, Shri Jagannath Subhadan Baladev ki jai, Shri Shri Radhagiri Dari ki jai, Gaur Premanandi Hari Hari Bol. All glories to the assembled devotees. Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees. Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees. Hare Krishna. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Namo Om Vishwadaya Krishna Prasada Bhakti Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami. Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktivinoda. Hare Krishna. So, go through the verse. Second chapter of Bhagavad Gita, contents of the Gita summarized, text number 21. If you have the book, the Sanskrit with you, please repeat after me. I will also repeat myself. Veda vinashinam nityam, Veda vinashinam nityam, Ya enam ajam avyayam, Ya enam ajam avyayam, Katam sa purusha partha, Katam sa purusha partha, Kam gatayati hantikam, Kam gatayati hantikam, Kam gatayati hantikam, Kam gatayati hantikam. And continue repeating after me, please. Veda, Veda, in knowledge, Avinasinam, indestructible, Nityam, always, Ya, one who, Enam, this soul, Ajam, unborn, Avyayam, immutable, Katam, how, Sa, he, Purusha, person, Partha, O Partha, Arjun, Kam, whom, Gatayati, hurts, Hanti, kills, Kam, whom. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace of Prabhupada. O Partha, how can a person who knows that the soul is indestructible, unborn, eternal, and immutable, kill anyone or cause anyone to kill? Turn that other down. Please repeat after me. O Partha, how can a person who knows that the soul is indestructible, unborn, eternal, and immutable, eternal and immutable. Kill anyone or cause anyone to kill. Kill anyone or cause anyone to kill. Purport. Everything has its proper utility, and a man who is situated in complete knowledge knows how and where to apply a thing for its proper utility. Similarly, violence also has its utility, and how to apply violence rests with the person in knowledge. Although the justice of the peace awards capital punishment to a person condemned for murder, the justice of the peace cannot be blamed because he orders violence to another person according to the codes of justice. Hare Krishna. In Manu Samhita, the law book for mankind, it is supported that a murderer should be condemned to death so that in his next life he will not have to suffer for the great sin he has committed. Therefore, the king's punishment of hanging a murderer is actually beneficial. Similarly, when Krishna orders fighting, it must be concluded that violence is for supreme justice, and as such, Arjuna should follow the instruction, knowing well that such violence committed in the act of fighting for Krishna is not violence at all, because at any rate, the man, or rather the soul, cannot be killed. So for the administration of justice, so-called violence is permitted. A surgical operation is not meant to kill the patient, but to cure him. A surgical operation is not meant to kill the patient, but to cure him. Therefore, the fighting to be executed by Arjuna at the instruction of Krishna is with full knowledge, so there is no possibility of sinful reaction. Mukham karoti vachalam, pangam langayate girim, yat kripa tamaham vande, Shri Gurum dinatarinam. By the mercy of the spiritual master, a lame man can cross over mountains, and a dumb man can compose eloquent poetry. Hare Krishna. So welcome again, everyone. And I'll just say that in the chat and invite anyone and everyone to jump in and say Hari Bol, and especially to pose any questions or doubts or challenges or share any realizations or what particular questions you have specifically, especially about this, what we've just read, and as we continue through, to offer whatever comes up for you. Make it as interactive as possible and therefore more enlivening for you and me. So Srila Prabhupada very kindly expands on this essential verse, and I remarked that Krishna is asking Arjuna a question. Now, for me, that's significant in that Krishna is asking Arjuna to think. And he's asking him to think outside of the box. So that's another way of saying challenge the status quo. To go beyond my present conditioned limitation, expectation, belief barriers. Unless we acknowledge that we're conditioned and that the spirit soul is completely different from the body and the material mind, and that it is full of knowledge, means that we can be enthusiastic. Immediately, this chapter gives us a basis for for steady enthusiasm, that I am different from my body and mind. So whatever my body is demanding, pushing for, used to, habituated to, certain type of food, certain type of reading material or viewing material or distraction, whatever my mind is telling me, demanding, pushing, declaring as absolute truth. Oh, if I listen to this Mangalacharana of Prabhupada, I'll just be bored. Well, yeah, we can be bored. And yet, if we take seriously this basic instruction, the A of the ABCs of spiritual life, we won't do that. We'll think, well, thanks, mind, for sharing, but get lost. You say I'm going to be bored? Rubbish. This is eternally relishable nectar. Yeah, so challenge the status quo. So Krishna asking Arjuna a question, he's putting it to Arjuna. How can a person who knows what's true, in other words, the soul is indestructible, unborn, eternal, and immutable, kill anyone or cause anyone to kill? How is it possible, Arjuna? How are you thinking and talking like you've been thinking and talking? What's going on? Wake up. Come to reality. Come to the light. Tamasi. Leave the darkness behind. Krishna Surya Sama, Maya Andhakara. So Krishna is the source of is light. Krishna is the source of the sun. Krishna is the source of all light. Light means knowledge. Knowledge means light. So the more we are aware, the more we realize, the more we advance, based on this enthusiasm, based on this knowledge, the more we become aware. And Prabhupada goes into this quite significantly, although very briefly, the beginning of the purport. So first of all, Krishna is asking Arjuna, calling him to challenge the status quo that he's been in. So Krishna is calling us, because we're Arjuna, we're in one sense we are Arjuna. We are Arjuna. Krishna and Arjuna set this up for us, and Arjuna is standing in the place, our place. Krishna is holding our place. He's going through what we go through in our struggle, in our commitment, in our surrender to advance in Krishna consciousness and become eternally full of bliss, not to become, but to experience daily, constantly, being full of bliss, knowledge forever, eternally, satata. So think about Krishna asking you this question. How can you live as if you are your body? How can you do that? Simple answer is because I accept illusion, or I'm attached to avoiding you, Krishna. I'm attached to doing it my way without considering that I'm suffering. As Sanatana Goswami approached Lord Chaitanya. People call me Pandit, Sadhu. They consider me a very knowledgeable person. And maybe I am very well educated. I know so many languages, etc., etc. But actually, I don't know who I am. Why am I suffering? I don't want to suffer. So why am I forced to suffer? I'm not forced to suffer. I'm choosing to suffer by going on with this attitude that I can do it myself, or and the flip side of that is because I'm so unqualified and so undeserving of Krishna's mercy or Prabhupada's mercy, I won't try. I'll live in that status quo. See all these reasons? I can't. Won't. Can't means won't. Cannot means I will not. Consider that. So another way to challenge the status quo. So in the purport, Prabhupada says, everything has its proper utility. So everything that we can do or use or engage in, every situation we can be in, are in or can be in, has its proper utility. And what is that? How to use it for Krishna. In the mentality that if I use it for Krishna, I will be happy. I will be experiencing more that complete, constant joy in full awareness eternally. So the more we learn how to use things, and a man who is situated in complete knowledge knows how and where to apply a thing for its proper utility. So a person, this is the status, the level, the consciousness, the ability of a man who is situated in complete knowledge. So this is a symptom of our advancement. We become more and more clear about how to act in every situation, or what in the fork in the road, and we come to many forks in the road. Every moment, there are choices to make. How do I serve better? Just like a few minutes ago, I wanted to have some juice before I started my class. I wanted to do that. And then I said, well, hang on, there's not enough time to do that and beyond time for starting the class. So I made a choice. I considered. So the more we have knowledge, in other words, realization of how to apply this particular situation or this particular doubt, or how to decide whether I go that way or I go that way. That depends on our knowledge, which from the spiritual point of view is a symptom of our advancement, of our surrender in Krishna consciousness. The level of clarity that we have depends on our own openness to challenge the status quo, our willingness, our eagerness to challenge, to reject what the mind says, to reject my own excuses, to reject my own attachment, my own lethargy. I have a certain self-defeating belief barrier that I don't have enough time. So I'm rejecting, I'm avoiding the reality that Krishna will give me all the time, whether I become more efficient, I accept help, I delegate others, I make more effective choices in what I'm doing with my time. I waste so much time. How about you? So challenge the status quo. I know I'm wasting time now. So what do I do in that situation? What choice do I make? I can go one way or the other. So the more knowledge we have, in other words, the more realization we have, the more we will not only know what to do, because knowing what to do is one thing, but doing it, So that's the difference between Gyan and Vigyan. Gyan means knowing something. Vigyan means doing it. Realization means I have not only the understanding, the clarity about what to do, but the enthusiasm, the energy, the will, the desire to do it. Then we're talking seriously. Then I'm getting to the source. So, all right, someone may say, you may think, well, I don't have much knowledge. I study Bhagavad Gita, but I don't realize it very much. Okay. Yes, we should be real. We should be honest. We should be humble enough, honestly humble enough to say, okay, I'm not pure yet. So then there's the discussion of, well, what is purity and what is surrender? Because one can become, so one definition of a pure devotee is one who's fully surrendered. Whether they're actually fully relieved of all sinful, of all karmic reactions, isn't the point. The point is that if one is fully surrendered, then Krishna accepts that person as a pure devotee. That's another discussion. So if we don't feel like we have enough knowledge to make a decision about how to utilize this properly, this particular situation or this challenge or this doubt or the struggle in a relationship properly, then we do what? We have our checks and balances. We have Guru, Sadhu, and Shastra, spiritual master, saintly persons, and the scriptures. So we have Srila Prabhupada's books. Prabhupada wrote in a letter to one disciple, Bahurupa, I think it was 1975. Prabhupada was in India, and this devotee was in the US. And Prabhupada made it very clear. He said, if there's something you don't understand, you read my books again. You continue reading my books. Everything will become clear by reading again and again and again, and your realization will grow. So we have Prabhupada's instructions, maybe specifically about a particular point. Maybe not. But whether Prabhupada mentions a particular point, like Prabhupada says, we're not vegetarians, we are prasadamarians. So someone may say, well, is the Krishna conscious diet prasadam? Vegetarian, rather, excuse me. Is the Krishna conscious diet vegetarian? Well, yes. But if it's being vegetarian and not offering the food to Krishna, prasadarian, then there's still sinful reactions. That's a specific point that we can refer to Prabhupada's words and get a specific answer. At the same time, there are many situations or questions which are not necessarily specifically dealt with by Prabhupada, but Prabhupada makes it very clear. The more you read, the more you study my books again and again and again, the more you'll get realization. So we depend on spiritual master or sadhu for instruction, just like I'm very much inspired by Bhakti Tirtha Swami's teachings and his example. Also, Dhira Govinda Prabhu. I'm very inspired by the example, the pukka, the high quality, high level Vaishnava behavior, which means high level human behavior and beyond, not just sattvic, which is awesome, which is fantastic, to relate with people who act in the mode of goodness. They're respectful, they're honest, they're truthful, they're humble. These are all spiritual qualities, whether they're pure or not. one devotee was telling me that he's working in an institution outside of ISKCON right now. That's his work, and he has meetings with these in that particular institution, and the people they practice nonviolent communication, transformative communication in their meetings, and coming to conclusions about challenges or problems at the institution. And he said it's like a breath of fresh air. These people aren't directly Krishna conscious, although they know this person is an aspiring devotee, so they're Krishna conscious to a certain degree, but they're acting in a sattvic way, and that's so refreshing. It's so enlivening. It's so enthusing that I can trust this person. I'm becoming comfortable with this person. I can talk to this person about important things. So again, we're challenging the status quo. If I'm associated with people within Prabhupada's institution or not, who are not acting sattvically, they're not being honest, they're not being gentlewomanly, then I have maybe a difficult choice to make. Do I continue associating with people who are not acting sattvically, what to speak of on the spiritual platform? Is that good for me? Is that helping me advancing Krishna consciousness? And you may come to the conclusion, no, it's not. It's discouraging for me. I'm uncomfortable. I'm doubtful. I'm even questioning Prabhupada and Krishna. So then we have to step back and ask ourselves the question, or consider the Krishna's asking, why are you continuing in this association? If it's not helpful, as Lord Chaitanya says very clearly, the first two principles of surrender in Krishna consciousness is accepting everything which is good for our devotional service and rejecting anything that's not. So if that association within our institution or outside is not helpful, good for our progress in Krishna consciousness, then we should reject it. Does that mean we get on a bandwagon and create a political furor or Ferrari, whatever it is, Ferrari? No, and we remain humble and honest and respectful ourselves, but we don't allow anyone, as Prabhupada says, we don't allow anyone to obstruct our own advancement in Krishna consciousness. Now, someone could say this is a very political program. Amayatma Prabhu sends Hare Krishna Prabhu Dandavat Pranam. Srila Prabhupada writes in the purport about there being a higher beneficial purpose for the particular violence Arjuna is being encouraged to inflict, is ultimately any suffering or infliction from the material energy meant for our ultimate good to help us and awaken us to our real identity. Good question. Thank you, Prabhu. Great to have your association. So I'm going to table that for a second and continue focusing on where I'm going now. Please remind me by the time we get to, if I haven't spoken of gotten back to this by 10 to 10 New Zealand time, that's in about 20 minutes. No, 10 minutes. Please remind me. Please, please, please. So depending on the level of understanding, the realization that we have, whether we have it ourselves, which is coming from the super soul, if it's corroborated by Guru, Sadhu, and Shastra, or it's coming from the Guru or Sadhu, as I mentioned, for me, Bhakti Tirtha Swami, for example, Janananda Maharaj, the British Mahavishnu Swami. These are particular people who are very much, dear Govinda Prabhu, very much inspire me in stretching myself, challenging the status quo. So then Prabhupada goes, he jumps from the general to the specific, from the general of a man in complete knowledge knows how and where to apply a thing for its proper utility. Prabhupada knew exactly always what to do and what not to do. And he corrected us. He would instruct us. He would instruct us what's right, and he would instruct us what's wrong. He was like the doctor giving the medicine, prescription, chanting Hare Krishna, and the diet or the medicine, prasadam. In this way, we're positively protected, positively advancing, progressing, and being protected as well by the inoculation, the vaccination of Krishna prasadam. Gives us protection against material contamination. So Prabhupada brings it to the specific. Similarly, violence also has its utility. And how to apply violence rests with the person in knowledge. So violence, this is a very sensitive point. These days, with PCism being politically correct, people become so sentimental in terms of what is right and what is wrong. If someone stands up assertively and speaks out, "You're not the body," or "This life is illusion," or "God exists, and you'll be most happy by surrendering to him," people take offense. Who are you? And this, the philosophy of Ramakrishna, which Prabhupada railed against, Yatamat Tatapat, your path and my path, it's all the same. So if someone speaks up assertively, strongly, based on what Prabhupada says, they get challenged, they get attacked, they get criticized, they get attacked. It's going on all the time. So if we present that violence has its place, what would Gandhi say? What would the pacifists say? And someone challenged Gandhi. All right, you're a pacifist, you're nonviolent. What would you do if someone came and started abusing your daughter? A sane man would say, I would fight. I would protect her with force if necessary. So whether it's violence or it's free speech, or it's whether we go on Harinam at the profest or not, that takes realization, either from Guru, Sadhu, Shastra, or not or, but along with our own level of realization. The devotees chanting at the profess were challenged to stop Harinam. Now, what would Prabhupada want? What does the person in complete knowledge, or at least clear knowledge, in line with Srila Prabhupada, conclude about that question? And then we make our choice. And unfortunately, it's become a schism, which is very unfortunate. Of course, those who are advanced, they don't consider a schism. They may see it, but they don't take sides. That's a challenge for me, not to take sides. Because if I'm clear about something, that this is what Prabhupada wants, how do I express that? How do I share that? How do I remain firm and discuss that with others? Now, we have it in Srimad Bhagavatam, there's a history of Kali beating the bull Dharma, the bull of Dharma, beating the legs of mercy, truthfulness, cleanliness and austerity. And 3 legs were already gone. Austerity, mercy, and cleanliness, already gone. 1 leg was left. And Kali was going for that leg. And Maharaj Parikshit came upon him, this black Shudra person in the dress of royalty, beating this bull. Oh no, he didn't. He banished Kali. So I'm forgetting the details, but in any case, he asked Maharaj Parikshit asked the bull Dharma, "Who has done this? Who has done this to you?" And the bull Dharma would not say. He would not criticize. He would not demean any living being. Why? Because as Amitabha Prabhu's question brings up, he was taking the suffering, even though it was completely against Dharma, against religion, against spiritual principles, against Krishna consciousness, as his own due. He was in that mood, and that's partly a question, an answer to your question, Amitabha. Is ultimately any suffering or infliction from the material energy meant for our ultimate good to help us and awaken us to our real identity. So Bull Dharma, he was fixed in that, in the answer being yes. So he took it just like Maharaj Parikshit himself. He could have countered the curse of the son of Samika Rishi. But he took it as an opportunity. That suffering, that attack, that infliction from the material energy, as an opportunity, as a valuable chance, a situation which he could take for further advancement beyond what he had come to before. And he gave up everything and sat down to fast and learn about self-realization, Krishna consciousness, for the last 7 days that he had. So at the same time, we have a different answer here, because the bull, Dharma, he concluded one thing, and yet the person in the position of responsibility to protect and show that justice was being done, Maharaj Parikshit, he banished Kali, personality of Kali. He was going to kill him, and then Kali, being quite tricky and devious, he found a way out because of the influence of Kali. A lot of history there. So there's 2 different positions about violence. So although the justice, and Prabhupada he expands on that, although the justice of the peace awards capital punishment to a person condemned for murder, that justice of the peace cannot be blamed because he orders violence to another person according to the codes of justice. So the codes of justice are meant for keeping society safe and progressive. If we don't see that justice being done, just like these days, we see that murderers are given relatively short prison sentences, and then they get off on probation even earlier. And the so-called authority, the so-called justice of the present government becomes a joke. On the other hand, there's some governments with maybe some fundamentalist religious-based government. They will follow the principles of Manusamhita just for ulterior motives. Like if a thief gets caught, they may cut off his hand. So in principle, that's great. But is it based on connection with God, with protecting the society for advancing in Krishna consciousness, in self-realization? So these are all questions we need to ask ourselves. And therefore we can discriminate, we can understand how if the USA still has "In God We Trust," for example, on their money, their dollar bills, that the principle is great, but is the practice there? Is the achar, is the behavior there? No, it's almost completely godless, or it is completely godless in the name of God. So this having knowledge according to our own realization, connected with what we hear from Srila Prabhupada, what we hear from those who are Paka, those who are more advanced than we are, the sadhus, and from the scripture. So we continue to discuss, we continue to hear from Srila Prabhupada. We study Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, Chaitanya Charitamrita. We discuss with those who are encouraging for us, for those who are more advanced than we are, especially, or peers, and we take those instructions into our life. Hare Krishna, you're welcome. So, and please put in something more from yourself about, because I didn't say very much about that point. So, continuing in the purport, so Prabhupada, he expands on how, in this particular case of violence, he doesn't promote in this case the stance or the position of the bull dharma, because the other stance being for those who are the Kshatriyas, who are meant to be the protectors of society. The Kshatriya kings, emperors, they treated their own subjects as if they were their own children. And because that was real, because it was enacted based on spiritual principles, the Kshatriyas, they were able to give that protection, and the citizens, they felt comfortable, they were satisfied, they were peaceful. So much, and the level of the government and the emperors and the kings was so high that the weather was never even bad or too bad, too hot, too cold. It was like the spiritual world. Of course, everyone has to get old and sick and die, but the quality of life was, for us, unimaginable. Never too cold, never too hot. Can you imagine? I mean, why do we like good weather? I was out with some devotees yesterday at the Whangarai Saturday Prasadam market stall and at the book table with Muchakunda and our friend Dave and Mark, so many wonderful people being attracted to this magnetic hub of vibrant Krishna consciousness. Food for Life, there's like a temple with full service going on 5, 6, 7 days a week, vibrating. You get near it, you get drawn in like iron filings to a magnet. So it was a beautiful day up here yesterday in Northland, Whangarai, on I said to one devotee friend, why do we like this? Why do we like this weather? Why are we attracted to sunny, blue sky, bright, warm, not too hot, not too cold? Because that's how it is in the spiritual world, in our eternal home. So the Kshatriyas, they are the protectors, and their duty is to encouraged to draw, to educate people in spiritual life and to behave themselves according to spiritual knowledge, Manusamhita. And because they do that, qualified Kshatriyas, they do that. Maharaj Yudhisthira, Maharaj Parikshit, Lord Ram. So many examples there in Srimad Bhagavatam, historic personalities who were doing that, so that the citizens actually feel satisfied, comfortable, protected. It's not. We may say, "Oh, that's history," or "That's I can read about that." But we're committed. Our lives are committed to reestablish that level of consciousness and potency. If the consciousness is there, if the knowledge is there, then the potency to make the decisions and act to change the world, at least our circle of influence. And with Prabhupada, the world was his circle of influence, maybe the universe. We're not quite on that level, but we're committed to doing that. So if we understand these principles, how to apply violence or not, the more and more we're in knowledge, not just in potency, but in knowledge. Prabhupada says we study his books to have ammunition to defeat or to fight and protect ourselves against atheism, against impersonalism, against distraction, against challenge, the lethargy or the complacency, not to challenge the status quo. Drive my chariot. So the more we have realized knowledge, the more we will be able realize book knowledge and applied book knowledge. We don't just read, and we don't just advance. They're one. We advance by reading, and by applying it, we become more advanced. We're at a certain level of faith. We have a certain level of faith, and according to that, we act. If my faith was strong enough, I'd be chanting Hare Krishna 24/7, probably going on Harinam or whatever way I do my preaching, which may not be in the streets, all the time. And that's samadhi, that I'm eating, sleeping, drinking, my service. So we have a certain level of faith, we study and we apply it, and that level of faith increases or expands. And as we do that, we'll be able to explain to people who may be concerned about being politically correct, who are overwhelmed with this sentimental, bodily-centered, bodily-based paradigm, vision, or approach to life, to the world, to other people. If we don't challenge the status quo in other people in a way that they can appreciate, accept, and apply, then we're not doing what Prabhupada wants us to do, whether it's in books distribution or giving classes or befriending others or helping the children or teaching or washing the pots, distributing the books, doing business. If I'm not using, Prabhupada says, everything has its proper utility. So how do I use my work? How do I use my service? How do I use my time to expand my own Krishna consciousness, to strengthen my own Krishna consciousness, to challenge the status quo of my own level of consciousness and my mind, and that of others? I still have a lot more to offer. So many points coming up. And thank you, Amiyama Prabhu. As you stated earlier, deeper Shastric knowledge and understanding realization can help us to accept all situations that we're placed in as Krishna's mercy for our ultimate benefit or good. Tate nukampam sushamikshimano. Tolerating all suffering as a result of our misdeeds and continuing to offer our body, mind, and hearts in service. Sadhana bhakti means practice. Yes. Bhakti yoga is action. Action for Krishna. So this idea of tolerating our misdeeds, or the result of our misdeeds, this can bring up the question of karma. And Prabhupada, there won't be time to continue, but I'll just mention the point that Prabhupada says that at the end of the purport, a surgical operation is not meant to kill the patient, but to cure him. Therefore, the fighting to be executed by Arjuna at the instruction of Krishna is with full knowledge. Now, Arjuna may not be fully realized of why he should fight. He may not have given up his doubts, his arguments, his excuses fully, but he's accepting Krishna's guidance. So we may not have fully given up our impurities, our anarthas, our doubts, our attachments. But if we accept Krishna through Prabhupada, the more we accept that, absolutely, that is with full knowledge. So there is, Prabhupada says, there's no possibility of sinful reaction. So the question of, okay, well, what if I'm a mixed devotee? What level of sinful reaction is there, if any? It's a whole nother discussion, which Prabhupada indicates here. And, but I'll finish there. Thank you all for your association. Namyama Prabhu, especially for your valuable question and comment. Let us now offer our respectful obeisances unto all the Vaishnava devotees of the Lord, who are just like desire trees and can fulfill the desires of everyone, who are full of compassion for the fallen conditioned souls. Jai Vancha Kalpatariyascha, Kripa Sindhuvevacha, Patitanam Pavanebhyo, Vaishnavebhyo, Namo Namaha. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Thank you again. Hari Bol.